Hey guys, this is a long overdue video. I've actually been meaning to do one of these for a while, I just didn't. Because I think I've wanted to do commentaries with multiple people, but like, I can't, so you're stuck with me. You're also stuck with this terrible mic quality. I could get my good mic, but I'm lazy right now, so you're gonna just suffer this. So KATABASIS, this is a project that I had wanted to do, I think in August. I knew I wanted to make a project that was like this, but I just had no idea what the story was going to be. Getting Discord notifications right now. I didn't know what the story was going to be, so I kind of had to come up with it ad hoc, which basically means I had to purpose build it as opposed to having the idea ready to go and then wrapping everything else around it. There were a couple things that I knew I wanted from the get-go. So one of the things that I knew I wanted initially was the sort of the visual style is something I knew I wanted immediately, and the tone. So I wanted something that was not really like the 80s type shit that I did last time, and I knew I wanted it to be really focused on loss, and something that took place in either limbo or some sort of alternate dimension. So that's what I went with here. And then I came up with this, and I sort of shoehorned in the Lovecraftiness underneath it. And that was basically how it worked. The Lovecraftiness, if anybody who actually knows anything about Lovecraft watched this, you're probably going to think I did it wrong, but there was a lot of intentional stuff I did wrong, so I guess I did it wrong, but ironically, I guess you could think about it that way. Now, this car actually, I don't think there's a good shot of this car, but the bumper actually says Lovecraft, but I don't think there's a good shot of it. I think there's one shot of the bumper, but it's just like completely obscured by darkness or whatever. So I guess if I'm going to talk about anything first, it should be this color. Now, the color was a really big problem that lasted for much of like the beginning of like a very large portion of the production, because I really didn't know what I wanted. I initially started with this really orange look, but I felt it was really inappropriate. I felt it wasn't giving off the vibes that I wanted, because I wanted that sort of like color that would fit the setting, right? I wanted that sort of backcountry look that this would have. That sort of bleak in the middle of some flyover state or something. And I didn't really realize that it's the content on screen that was going to do that for me. But what I should do is remove a lot of the color. So I basically tried to make it look like The Witch. Now I did it way more than The Witch, because The Witch actually has pretty subtle color grading, whereas this is really dramatic. And if I was to do it again, I would be a lot simpler about it, because I did a lot of things in this that were pretty unprofessional. Like the orange in this, I went into, I think it's HSL, and just totally removed like a ton of it. So like a lot of the skin tones are just gone, which is kind of purposeful, because I wanted to make the characters all look as pale as I could. And it's basically the same color correction running through the whole thing, with like a couple exceptions. Like in this bar scene, I brought back some of the warmth. So for this bit, there's a lot of stuff that's sort of unwritten that I put in, but I was kind of unsure about even when it was done. Like the fact that like this character makes a lot of really dumb choices. Like he leaves the basement door open later. So I decided, okay, well let's assume he's drinking. But then it kind of seems a little dumber, because then he starts driving, but he could easily give her directions, but obviously he wanted ownership of the car. So I feel like I could have put in a little bit to show that he was drunk, but I didn't. It was something I came up with after it was written, because it was one of those run and gun kind of screenplay things where I really blasted through this, and I tried to do as much as I could with as little dialogue as possible. That's the other thing, is like this whole thing, everything associated with this production was built for efficiency. Like I did everything I could in this to make sure I could do it as fast as possible. I unfortunately didn't accomplish that with regards to the amount of voice actors that I got, because I got a ton in sort of perspective with what I thought I was going to need. Like, I think actually, like, I guess if we're going to talk about cutting corners with voice actors, there's one voice actor who plays two characters. The guy at the front desk is the same guy who plays the doctor later in this. Which, that's how you, that's how you know you're, broke on, connections. Now, as for the sort of aspect ratio, I had a couple complaints about the aspect ratio being as wide as it was. Admittedly, I could have just set it to like 1920 by 800, whereas this is 1920 by 696. Now, 696 is as wide as you can reasonably get when you're making a movie. It's not called 696. It's generally... I fucking keep forgetting what it's called because I don't know cameras. It's like Panavision 70 or something like that. Wouldn't even be called Panavision because it's Panavision's a brand. I'm really bad with cameras, and Steven will fucking roast me about this, but that's not the point. Now, admittedly, doing this aspect ratio was more of a doing it because I could do it rather than I should. There is one small thing that it does do, and that's it. If I, like, because I was going for the effect of the character is insignificant in perspective of the things that she's dealing with, that being the universe in this case, which is the sort of metaphor, it does do a good job making her feel small in comparison to the things around her, and like she's in, you know, she, in terms of scale, she's completely offset. There it is. There's a shot of the bumper, but you can't see it because the video quality's that good. Another thing I didn't realize I was going to have a really big problem with was the GTA 5 compression. Wowie, it's bad. It's very, very bad. It's tolerable under high lighting, like really, really bright lighting circumstances, like if it's a daytime thing. But at nighttime, it will fuck you. You will see artifacting everywhere. So I've pretty much, but I don't know why I didn't consider this, because I knew this was the case. I just didn't think it was going to be that bad. But it is, and it ruins many shots in this. But I couldn't fix it because I didn't have the time. Like, there's like a lot of the like when it becomes nighttime in this, you're dealing with the fog, the lack of, you know, the fact that the moon's covered up because there's clouds, and then you're dealing with the fact that this compression ratio is terrible. Is it a ratio? Whatever. So pretty much after this, I've just, anytime it's a dark scene, I crank up the brightness as high as it can fucking go. Even then I still get some errors, but it's still pretty good. I was gonna make a point. Yeah, a lot of people gave me shit. They're like, why don't you use mods and like make the game look beautiful or whatever? It's because my PC's really bad. That's why. My PC's terrible, so I'm working with what I got. If I was to render it as is, like just replay it and record it with like Shadow Play or OBS, it would look like shit because the FPS would not be consistent. It would look really bad. This scene... Okay, so this scene, you're supposed to see them come out of that door that's on the left side of the frame just there. I genuinely tried for like a good 30-40 minutes to get 3 guys to walk through that fucking door, but it didn't work because the pathing was terrible and scene director at the time. So I just got one guy with a flashlight to like put a flashlight on that body and then walk away. Which worked fine. I just would have preferred you to see the number of people that she was dealing with. That would be in an ideal world. Another thing I wanted to do in this had to do with any sequences that involved running. I wanted them to be as quick as possible because any sort of running sequences in movies, I find them exceptionally boring. So I tried to find the decent way to make them interesting, which in this case, it's the fact that she's having Vietnam-style flashbacks to the tragedy prior to this. See, look at that compression. It looks like shit. So that was sort of my way of also cutting, not only to make the edit tighter for her to get from A to B faster, but to not turn that into white noise and just wasted screen time. I actually used a very, very small amount of mods to make this, another part of the sort of efficiency thing. Yeah, and that transition. That door doesn't open, so that's how I had to transition that. That's what you do when you're in dire straits. Yeah, I only used like a couple. I think I used Scene Director and Menu the most extensively, plus the lip movement mod. That bird monster, or one of them, there's multiple, you can see the suits change, was voiced by me, and it was one of the easiest things I ever voiced, because I only did the lines like a couple times, and he just whispered into the mic in some almost English accent. I reduced the pitch by like 12, and then added I added like a noise gate thing. Not a noise gate, I added a ring mod, which is basically an it's an amplification modulator, and it basically works on an LFO, which is a low frequency oscillator. So it makes the volume go high and low really, really, really quickly. And typically, you can use a ring modulator to lock the pitch. Like if you want to match the pitch of a vocal to like a song, you can use it by like adjusting the frequency of the oscillations to the frequency of the note. If you want to do some cool electronic effect. But I used it for this because I wanted a means of distinguishing the residents of the this little limbo world to the people who were not supposed to be there. If you notice, the effect is on the cashier. I think some of the people who, like, you can hear them like crying or moaning or breathing or whatever. You can hear the effect, and you can hear it in, obviously, her sister. Now, I don't even think... Like, I actually went through a couple revisions of this scene when I was writing it. I initially wanted him to get stabbed in the back when he was opening the door. So, like, in this shot, it was supposed to be he would open the door and then get stabbed from behind, and then naturally the door would close if he fell away from it. But I think in GTA, when you put a character up to the door and just leave him there, the door just slowly pushes him back to position 1. So that would have been really annoying. But I liked this version. I think it worked well and got the point across. The only issue, obviously, being that head doesn't match the face of the guy, but whatever, it's fine. And, like, he's clearly not even white. But whatever. Oh yeah, another fucking thing that I got some comments about was the footsteps. You have no fucking idea how long I sat there placing footstep sounds, and I don't even like them. I think they're really bad in this. I think these ones are pretty good, because like the grass sound was pretty good, but the ones I had were from Battlefield 4, and they were remarkably bad. I want to find better ones, because these ones I had to put too many effects on them to make them sound passable, and I found them just annoying. So I'm going to be looking for new ones. I think I used to use different ones, so I'm going to look for those again. And I'm going to talk about this shot a bit. So, if you have the flashlight up, when you press J to talk, you move the flashlight. So there's a reason I'm cutting corners in this and not showing her face when she's not moving. Because I couldn't move her lips without her doing this really weird jerk. But you see, when I was moving back, I was able to do it. And then we get the lone survivor falling down the cliff, which would definitely break all your bones. I did like that shot, though, of her going into the river, because I had a shot that I didn't know if I wanted to use later at the end of me just jumping into the ocean, and it was oddly fitting for that scene, so I used it for that instead, and I thought it was cool. I was a little hesitant about using this song because this song is really good. And I didn't know if I wanted to use it on this scene because I was like, I could probably use it for a different project that I cared a little more about. But I was like, fuck it. It's a great song. I'll use it and I'll find something else if I ever need a song like this. There's another thing. There's a problem here. If you see it closing the door, yeah, it fades just before it closes really, really fast, which was annoying because the way doors work in this game is they'll close at a good speed and then snap at the end. It's really annoying. There's a guy. That's Anax of Rhodes, I believe, is his YouTube channel. He was a good sport. He delivered his lines quite quickly, and he was able to do both of them, and I kind of just said, fuck, I'll use both of them. The biggest problem I had with this was probably about the middle section, so I knew it was going to be before this. I needed to do a lot of things really, really quickly. So I think the pacing could have been better for this if I had a little more time, but I didn't. I think it turned out pretty good considering, but there was a lot of stuff like in the middle where I had to show like, okay, how do I go from these people are her friends to these people want to exploit her to there's a threat in here to the fact that she is here, like why is she here and stuff like that. And that was probably one of the biggest things I had to conquer. Another thing was the mods I was using. There was one mod that wasn't like, which comes at the end, which is the giant Cthulhu head. I knew I wanted that, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I went to my friend Muzz, who very kindly did the mod for me. He was very generous, and I appreciate that because I think it definitely elevated the ending. Fuck, I like that shot a lot. I wish I could have let it linger a bit, but I think there must have been some reason why it didn't. And then we get to this scene. What's interesting about this is I had known that I wanted to use Steph as the main, as the lead. I wanted to get her to voice the lead. And she's Australian, and I wasn't going to force her to do any other accents, which meant that if I had to get her sister, somebody to play the character's sister, I had to get another Australian voice actress. And I could only think of one, which is Ali Fluro. And so I was very, very lucky to be able to get Ali to actually do this because I didn't think she was going to fucking be interested. But she was actually really sweet about that and delivered her lines pretty quickly. I think I bitched at her for like once, and then I was kind of like talked down to because I think she might have told me they were getting it on like that Thursday or something. I don't even remember. But yeah, I got very, very lucky, and I think I was really stupid for having taken that risk because if it didn't pay off, I'd have been fucked. I would have had to get a voice actress who would have had to be able to replicate the accent, and that's such a risk because I feel like most people, especially amateurs, can't perform under those conditions. They're too focused on making the accent as opposed to actually playing the character and delivering any kind of emotion, and I think it gets in the way, which is why I more often than not try with larger parts to get people to do their regular voices. Another thing is the clever use of slow-mo right there. That last shot was totally slow motion, but the shot prior to it was obviously real time. You can do stuff like that for a lot of things in GTA. Like if you want somebody to get out of cover slower, you can use slow motion. Obviously, if there's shit moving in the background, you can't do it. But it's a good tactic, and you can use it a bit. And then this garbage shot. Look at that compression. But if there was one glaring thing I would fix, it would be this. I would have added like 1 or 2 shots to that transition. I thought the pacing here was bad. I thought that it should have been like, I should have shown her docking the boat and then standing there for a minute and then walking and then having that moment that she knew she was going to go back and then it cuts. I think that would have been a better choice, but I didn't put that in because I guess I didn't think about it at the time. But it was a glaring issue, and if I was to do it again, that's how I would do it. And then I would have gone to... I probably would have kept the same music, but I probably would have found a way to cleverly fade it in. Now, this scene I had a really hard time coming up with what I was going to do for this scene. I didn't know if I wanted the sort of avian person to be in the building already and for her to see that character, and then she would like sneakily try to evade him. But I didn't do that because it would have took way too long, and it probably wouldn't have been as effective, because the point was she's supposed to get here, go to the place or whatever, and go to the gateway and then have her conversation with her friend. That was supposed to be what was supposed to happen. But if I added some big suspenseful scene, it would have made it exciting and climactic, but I don't think it would have meant anything. So instead I put this guy showing up, and then that's sort of like the Rubicon, where it's like, now you have to go forward, because if you don't go forward, like you're going to die, kind of thing. And there's some whisper sounds that you can hear in this video. I actually stole that from this video I saw of this guy going into this like abandoned mine. You've probably seen the video. He goes into this mine, and there's like some sort of wind that's causing this thing that sounds like whispering. It sounds fucking uncanny like whispering. It's one of the most frightening fucking videos on the internet. And he hears it, and he the balls on this dude are enormous, because he hears it and he goes, instead of going, holy shit, that's the scariest thing ever, he goes, maybe I should get a bit closer. And then he walks towards the fucking noise. And then he does the rational thing, which is, yeah, I think we're gonna get the fuck out. This was Stephen Hancock's contribution in addition to the shot after this. I needed a lens flare. Who else am I supposed to go to? I used to have After Effects, but I uninstalled it. So I go to him now for my lens flare needs. Or I could just use like some stock lens flare from like Sony Vegas or something. God, you remember those days? Those were dark times. Now, oh boy, this was tough to shoot, because I actually went around asking if I could find a mod that would allow me to walk underwater, and I couldn't find one. As far as I'm concerned, there isn't one. And the other option was to remove the water and then color correct it to make it look like it's underwater. But I don't like that, because there's clearly a lot of things beyond, like the refraction and stuff like that shows that it's underwater. So I used a lot of animations and just fucking rolled with it. Like, the characters, when you leave them and you're not playing as them, they'll just start floating upwards, which is really annoying. So if I switched to one character for a while, the other character would very slowly start floating upwards. So I had to act very quickly. If you'll notice, I don't show their feet in certain shots. That's why. Yeah, but big fucking thanks to MuzzTube for hooking me up with Big Cthulhu Head. I was not expecting him to actually be able to do it. I don't even think I knew what my alternative was going to be. I think if I wasn't able to do any of the shit that I wanted to do in the scene, I would have had them out and they would have been looking at the ocean, and then I would have got somebody to like composite a Cthulhu out in the distance, which would have been fine, but it would not have been as good as this. I think. I do like this. I love underwater shit. I think it's so creepy. Anything underwater can kick your fucking ass. So I love underwater horror stuff. I loved Soma. I loved there's another underwater horror game whose name escapes me, but it was also pretty good. Any of that shit. It's called I believe it's called Thessalophobia or Megalothessalophobia. And look up, like, Google that. It'll fuck you up. And then we get to these shots, and I actually wasn't even... This is another fucking problem. I didn't know I was going to end it. I had no idea. I didn't know if she was going to wake up immediately after she left there, or if she was going to do as we do here and wake up. Yeah, there was a lot of options I had, and obviously I went with this one. And I thought it turned out pretty good, because it sort of bookended it with the opening lines, which is just Fairfield Fencer pitched downward and then given like a radio filter. I love using FL Studio Resynth. I think it is a great tool for making a lot of voice effects. You can do so much shit with it. You can't even tell it's fair. I do that to him a lot, where I'll give him a role and then it'll be something where you can't even distinguish that it's him. And then there's the shot of her being alone in the room, which I liked. And then we get the longest credit sequence ever. So a rational person would probably have... I'm not going to talk through this whole fucking credit sequence. Or at least I hope I won't. Who knows, I could be jinxing myself. So I wanted to use this song really badly, because it's a really awesome song and I love Koma's music, and I've used it a lot actually on this channel. There's a lot of videos I've deleted that have used it, so if you were here before I deleted them, you probably saw them. But I know I used it in Harvest and I used it in Ash, or used her music in both of those videos. But I wanted to use it here, and I'm not going to speed up the song, and I didn't have enough credits to go around. What I probably could have done was spread out the credits a little more, so you have the illusion that you're watching a really fast moving set of credits. But I didn't, because I was a dumb. But anywho, I hope you guys learned a thing or two from this, and sort of the stuff I did and had to do in order to make this, and sort of what was going through my head and whatnot. I really like making horror movies. It's a lot of fun. I think it's something I'm getting better at. I don't know if I'll do another one of these Halloween videos, because I really don't have any ideas right now for another Halloween video, but who knows, I might come up with one. But I'm liking this. I like that there's some sort of routine that I've given myself every October. It makes October suck a lot, because I love October. I love Halloween. I love that whole... I get an excuse to watch horror movies and spooky shit, which is... I love it. And I love the general atmosphere. But it's always paranoia, because fucking... Dude, doing the sacrifice in the middle of the fucking height of the 2016 election cycle sucked. It was A, that I had to get it out, and B, the paranoia of the 2016 election cycle, which was miserable. This wasn't as miserable, but I was still kind of paranoid. Like, towards the end of this, when I was rendering these, my PC is so bad, rendering these with the motion blur, 5-minute scenes, that's 5 hours of my life gone. Yeah, it's that fucking bad. So I was rendering these these scenes for days. And just getting, like, I would wake up, render a video, render another one, and then maybe, like, get 2 5-minute scenes done in a day. It wasn't as bad as The Sacrifice, which was a over 24-hour render for the entire thing, but it was... It was pretty bad. Yeah, I need a better PC, but I don't have any money. And what do you know? I talked through the whole thing, so I might as well fucking bookend it here. With the text. So, thank you for watching. I know this is a really niche kind of video that not a lot of people would enjoy or understand, but I appreciate you for watching this. So, thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys have an excellent day.